Hey everybody, it's the Black Powder Beginner. Welcome to another episode of Percussion Discussions. And right now, I'm doing a voiceover, and because there was so much noise at Carter's Country, so here are the first shots of the 1860 Army that was gifted to me by Mr. Keith. First shot hit far to the right. No, it hit the paper. Hit the paper. Um, I had a little issue with the cap jams, but it wasn't as bad as normal. As you can see there, I'm fooling with it. What ends up happening is the caps get caught in the action, and the cylinder doesn't so much turn, and you have to kind of work the cylinder a little bit to kind of get those caps, the spent caps, out. So I'm trying to aim down a little bit, and I'm just trying to get the feel of the Army, which is fairly difficult because it's hard to get a consistent roll going when you have those cap jams like that. But it, I ended up having to put another cap on because I guess because of the force of the shots, it knocked the cap off. So I wanted to show you guys a full picture of what I do, not just cut it up. And so, plus I'm working with the camera angles. So I wanted to just kind of give you guys a full picture here. And so I'm taking a good aim, like I said, bottom of the target, and then that's a little bit too low. So that was those first shots with that 1860 Army that was gifted to me. Now, what I was thinking about doing was I holstered that army, and actually this is the battle of two armies. So I have another army on my left hip, and I just pulled it there, and I considered firing shots with that army. And I was getting ready to load, and then it occurred to me that I hadn't changed the target. So I said, well, I'll just continue with the army that Mr. Keith gifted to me, which is a Pieta. It's you've seen in the previous video. It's a Pieta 92, 1992 Pieta. Army San Marco, I believe, imported it, but it's a smooth firing revolver. The action is very smooth. You can shoot it with both hands, your strong hand and your off hand. So I go to load, excuse me, and I have my ammo pouch on my belt with my holsters behind my back, so I'm reaching back there to pull out paper cartridges. Um, so this is me just loading, and this is the process. This is how long it takes. I stand there. Normally, I cut all of this out because I deem it not to be very important. But something else that I figured out, and it's not a bad thing, but it is disappointing. And what I figured out was that it's the armies are better to shoot round balls instead of conicals. When you're trying to shoot conicals, they have to be where the load is a little bit smaller, so it ends up being maybe 25 to 30 grains worth of powder instead of a full 30 to 35 like I like to shoot. If you have 30 to 35 grains of black powder with a round ball, they fit in the cylinder just fine. Each chamber will load properly, but as you can see, I have to take the I have to take the wedge out because those conicals were going into the cylinder. I was pressing them into the chambers crooked, so they weren't going all the way down in. So because of that, I had to take this cylinder off and kind of finagle it a little bit. It was a battle. It was a battle only because the conicals go if you don't have them completely centered. If you have them only slightly off, they'll turn crooked and then they'll be crooked. And it's very, very difficult to force them home all the way down into the chambers like they need to go. With the round ball, you don't have a problem with the round ball because it's round. So every edge there are really no edges when it comes to a round ball because it's round. So you can see me here struggling to put the conicals in, having issues with banging, and then so the guy asked, so now there's a ceasefire. So I told him, yeah, I've had everything pulled apart. So that is me working with a punch and kind of trying to straighten the conicals and put them into the chamber properly. It was a forcing. To be quite honest, it was a forcing. I was beating down with a punch to force them because they wouldn't get past the forcing cone because they weren't seated all the way. So now I'm looking to see how bad it is, and I'm thinking to myself, maybe I should just put this up, but I hate to quit in the middle of something, so I'm just kind of zoning out for a minute, and I'm like, okay, well, let me try to put more paper cartridges into the cylinders. So as you see me look off, I'm actually grabbing paper cartridges from my pouch on my belt behind my back. And yeah, so that's where we stand right here. And so let me go to the next clip. All right, so first cylinder down. Finally got the second cylinder loaded. And so now, like I said, that this is the Pieta. It's very easy to shoot. You can see I just pull the hammer back. But I did have one squib, and it was only because I forgot that cylinder. Quite honestly, I knocked the conical off the top of the paper cartridge, and instead of me just digging that powder and wad out, I just fired it out. I know it's a lazy way of doing things, but when you're standing there and it's that's the one thing about going to a public range is that there's a lot of distractions. That's another reason why I have this voiceover is because there was a lot of shooting going on around me, even though they were working on the berms, and so there wasn't really a lot of target area to shoot. As you can see that but there's somebody directly next to me, so it made it more difficult. But that's the cylinders. Those are the chambers that I fired. Not the greatest, but that's the one thing about me is that I have to kind of warm up to accuracy when it comes to shooting these black powder firearms. And that's because you have to remember that the Colts shoot so high, right? So right now I'm clearing the caps out, and so with that being said, I'm just kind of working on smoothness, trying to load a little bit smoother, and you can see you can see that I'm loading some more paper cartridges in, and like I said in the previous clip, I realized that the conicals are just not the best. I mean, they work, but it takes a little bit more care. And when you're standing up, you've got firing going on to the right of you. You got people, asking if you can have a ceasefire if you're done yet. It makes you feel rushed. And so it's a good thing in the sense that it kind of makes you want to learn how to load faster because you want to get those shots off before the ceasefire is over. But it also rushes you to a point where you kind of, well, with me, I tend to not do things the right way and not be as meticulous as I could be. And I just hit that firearm with the metal part, I think, of that hammer. But now I've gone to just round balls. Just round ball paper cartridges. That's why you see the green box on the bench, because I had made the decision that the conicals just weren't going to work. I'm not able to put them in. Those were old paper cartridges. I mean, not so much old in the sense of they've been sitting for months and months, but maybe a month. And so I just, like the last video, I'm just kind of cleaning out the older paper cartridges that I have, and I have some more that I just found earlier that I need to shoot. But because I'm switching over to my own nitrated paper. So with that being said, I want to get these paper cartridges that don't have nitrated paper because without the nitrated paper, there tends to be a lot of leftover paper in the chambers when I'm cleaning after the day is done. But with the nitrated paper, there's more residue. There's more black powder residue, but there's not much paper. So I would rather deal with the residue than with the paper. So that's why I want to switch over to my own nitrated coffee filter paper. And that's a video that I have on my website showing the nitrated paper versus the regular coffee filter paper and why I choose to nitrate my own coffee filter paper and use that instead of just in the kit, the paper cartridge kit that I've used before. So now we get back to shooting. I've loaded up again, and let's see how I do. And this, like I said, Mr. Keith's gun fires so smoothly. It's a great shooting firearm. And then once I start to get the hang of it, I start getting more shots on paper. The groups are huge, but I get more shots on the paper. So with that being said, I go to, I'm turning the cylinder to see what I got left, see if there's anything spent. I'm fooling with something or other. I wanted to show you guys but the camera on the glasses is kind of high. So I'm looking down in the glasses, through the glasses, but the camera is only catching the top. So it doesn't occur to me to move my hands away from my body just a little bit until now. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to move my hands away from my body so that the camera can capture what I'm actually doing, because I knew I'm not didn't want to have the third camera on, because it was so many people in a small area. It was two people all the way down, not all the way, but about 4 spaces down. Then there was somebody directly next to me, and then there were two people waiting on the left side of me. So I just turned off the secondary camera that shows the wide angle from the first clips. I turned that off, and I just resorted to showing the target and showing the and showing the um through the glasses, the bird's eye point of view. Even though you can't really see anything other than me looking this way and that way, but I'm actually looking down a little bit further, and I wish I could adjust the camera angle on this, but I can't. But so with that being said, I'm gonna move on to the next clip, because I shot this is basically a versus. It's what this actually is. So what I should have done was done a better job of, kind of presenting what this was, but I made the first video about the Pieta and the Hawes, and this was what the result of it was. But as you can see the barrel it's got fouling on it already, and what I'm doing, okay, so that's what I'm doing is I'm taking the punch, which, Mr. Keith, listen, I know you gonna be like, this guy. Yeah, I'm taking the punch, and I am beating that those last three conicals. I think actually those conicals got stuck. They went. Let me just tell it like it is. Those conicals, one conical got stuck to a point where it was basically in there almost sideways. And I'm trying to force it down so that I can shoot it out. But it just got to a point where I was like, I'm going to end up tearing something up. So I say, you know what? Let me just retire the Pieta. And those are all the shots that I got off with the Pieta because of the conical. All right. So I didn't want to make a big deal out of the issue that I had with the conicals, but quite honestly, it took up quite a bit of time before I decided to just give up on it and move on to the other, to the Hawes. But I just wanted to show this. This is what I was trying to do. While the cylinder is still in the gun, I am attempting to push the conical in there, and I was continuing to do that. It didn't just stop at that one instance in the previous clip, because I didn't want to give up shooting the 1860 Pieta, the 1860 Army Pieta version. But you'll be able to see in short order, that I'm going to end up having to disassemble the entire firearm, and it just got to be another frustrating scenario at the range. And like I said, a lot of it is me rushing. You don't really, and I'm starting to get a better feel than before, but I still have these types of mishaps because I'm rushing to try to get some shots off before the ceasefire. And that makes it fairly difficult for me to really focus on what I'm doing. So I'm moving, I'm making sure that I'm trying to make sure that I'm loading everything properly. I'm also trying to, tune out everybody else. And when I am aiming, that I do aim properly. So it's not as natural as I would like it. And as you can see right here, I've taken the cylinder out, and I'm trying to straighten that conical. Which what I should have done was just taking the nipple off, taking the nipple out, and just did like I had to do before in the previous video, and just knock that one out. But if you look, I'm trying so hard to just get it past the forcing cone. I just want to get it past the forcing cone. And I mean, I'm sure people are gonna like pause that and kind of try to zoom in on it. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And in the process, I'm kind of messing up my other target. I'm like, man, I need that target for the other 1860 Army. So you see what I'm trying to do. I am trying to straighten that conical out, and I'm trying so hard to do it and get it past the forcing cone just so I could fire it out of the gun and not have to disassemble the gun and continue the shooting, the verses that I'm kind of doing. But at this point, I kind of have come to the realization that it's just not going to happen. It is just not going to happen. So, and eventually when I got home and I was cleaning everything, I took everything apart, took the nipples out, which I normally do when I clean anyway. There was actually two that were just fine. It was just one. It was just one sideways conical that ruined the day for the Pieta 1860 Army. So once I made the realization, and please don't comment on the state of the bench because I'm doing a bunch of stuff. So I gotta have everything out. So anyway, because of all of that, I finally just wiped it down and was like, you know what? I'm just gonna take it on to the house. So we'll take that one on to the house, and that'll be the last time that I fire the Pieta 1860 Army after I get through beating on it some more. But that's pretty much the last shots. Those previous shots were the last shots that I took with that 1860 Army. So let's see if we can get some more shots on paper with the Hawes 1860 Army. Okay, so here's the Hawes version. First shots. This is a bad camera angle on the target, but I did hit the first two at the top left. The third right there in the black. The fourth over to the right, if you can't see it, it's a short shot. It's a small shot. And I was sitting here watching this as I do my voiceovers, and I deal with a lot of cap jams. But this 1860 Army is the worst when it comes to cap jams. And it is a battle. You can see that you'll be able to see that I have my green box out that has my paper cartridges in it. And you'll see some paper cartridges sitting in the middle. Those are all the conicals. You can see the round ball paper cartridges there on the bench. But this Hawes, even with and I switched out the nipples because the nipples that came with it was in bad shape. If you saw my last video, you'll see that it was in bad shape. So I switched out, put the muzzle loader versions of the slick shot nipples in there, and it didn't help much. It helped a little bit, but it didn't help as much as I hoped it would. So I got those first six off. Now I'm reloading with the round balls. Now I will say that with the Hawes, because it's a stiff gun. I don't know the history behind it. Like I said in the last video, there's no provenance when it comes to where it came from, other than the guy that sold it to me, and I guess he buys the states, and it was just sitting somewhere. But the action on it is very stiff, but everything else is stiff as well. As far as the loading lever, um, every mechanical piece is stiff, which helps when it comes to loading. Now I can load those round balls into that Hawes Arms 1860 Army, and it loads like a champ. Not to say that Mr. Keith's Pieta doesn't load good, because it does. It does, but I'm surprised about the Hawes because the date code on it. And if you saw the last video, I'm going to reiterate it right now. The date code on it is 1960. So it's 32 years older than Mr. Keith's Pieta. But it actually shoots fairly well. The only problem when it comes to the loading is how the nipples are, how the recoil shield is positioned. The cutout is very small, so you can't get you see the star capper I have there on the bench. That will not put a cap on to the Hawes 1860 Army. It will just not do it. So I reach into the bag and I grab my inline capper. That won't do it either. So I end up having to put the caps on the nipples by hand. And so I try to use the star capper, and I wish I was looking down, and I think I do look down further, so that, or stick the arm, because I made the realization in the last couple clips, like I need to look a certain way and hold my hands out away from my body, but I'm focusing, so I'm just working and not thinking about. I don't even remember that I have the glasses on until later, because the glasses fit so well, and I'm focusing. I'm trying to load faster. I want to learn how to load faster. So with that being said, I struggle with the caps. Both had cap jam problems. Both revolvers had cap jam problems. The Hawes was just harder to put the caps on the nipples. So I'm struggling with that now. It makes a little trough. Well, excuse me. There is a trough on the recoil shield, and you have to position the nipple and the cap just right, and it will slide and through across into that trough, and the nipple will go on there halfway decent. But it's It takes some getting used to. No other firearm, black powder firearm that I have operates like that. But then again, I don't have any black powder firearms that are that old. Like I said, that's 32, well, 32 years older than my other black powder revolvers. Well, my other 1860 Armies. I'll say that. So the design is different. It's just designed different, and that's okay. That's fine. It's actually different, but it takes some getting used to. But once I get it down, it's not as bad as it seems. It takes a while. That's why I'm just kind of rambling right now, because I didn't want to cut this part out, because like I said, I wasn't going to do any edits like that when it comes to this. I wanted everyone to see, that it takes some time dealing with black powder revolvers. If you're not patient, then this may not be for you, because it takes time to learn. And after some months, it's becoming easier to learn, but there are some difficulties that arise because you're used to, bullet, gun, you put them together and fire. This is not that. So I try it again. I try it with the Star Capper again, but to no avail. It does not work. So when it comes to the hawse has to be manually loaded with caps. Excuse me. And that makes it slower, a lot slower. The loading is easy. The loading is quick and easy. You see, I already got the paper cartridges in. I'm just fooling with the caps. So I've got everything loaded up, and here are the last shots of the day. And one of the things that I want to say is that this Hawes 1860 Army is quite a good shooter. It's a good shooter. It's of course it does shoot high, just like all the 1860 Armies do, but it's a steady shoot. It's a good shooter. If, like I said, the action is stiff, but to be honest, I kind of like that stiffness in the action because it's more deliberate. I have to be very deliberate. But here, the problem is, even with the slick shot muzzle loader, slick shot nipples, even with those, there were cap jams. The recoil shield is built so narrow on the Hawes that it does not allow for the caps to kind of pop out the side like they need to. So that was the one thing that really irritated me with this. And maybe I could take a Dremel and kind of open up the recoil shield on the right hand side of the gun when you're looking down the barrel, kind of open that up some. But I don't want the case hardening is beautiful on both guns actually, but it's beautiful. But I'm reloading at this point. There was cap jams. I got those out. I reloaded, and this is just kind of showing what I'm looking at. Not so much what I'm looking at, but what the camera is looking at while I'm reloading. And in all honesty, I could have cut all this out. It's not necessary for you guys to see this, but I wanted it to be a full, complete for the most part, complete video. And so it kind of gives you an idea of how my range days actually go. Now, like I said in previous clips, it wasn't a lot of people there, but there wasn't a lot of space either. So I got kind of flustered because the guy directly next to me was shooting like two different AR-15s and a 9mm, and the guys down the way, they were shooting like some kind of rifle. So that, even though I know that I'm at a gun range, I do realize that I'm at a gun range. It startles me. It's startling to me because you never know, because I'm not paying attention to them, so I can't anticipate the sound of the shot. When I'm shooting myself, I can anticipate the sound of the shot because I'm the one that's shooting. So the sound doesn't bother me. But when you're standing and you're concentrating, and there is a level of concentration that you have to have when you're dealing with, and just to interrupt what I was just saying, I finally make the decision to kind of put the firearm in front of me a little bit more. But for a hot second, you can see where I'm putting the caps on with my fingers because I couldn't do it with anything else. I couldn't use a capper. And maybe I need a snail capper. That might be better. And I'll look into that. That with the cappers that I have, they just weren't going in. So I had to do it with my finger. And so that made it slower. Then you have people waiting to use your spot. And like I said, the anticipation of the sound of the shot, it was fairly difficult. See, there you go. If you look down at the bottom of the screen, you'll see where I'm trying to kind of get that cap into that recess. And it was fairly difficult to do. It was fairly difficult. I mean, if you saw the previous video, you'll see what the difference between the Hawes and the Pieta is not much, but there are some differences, and that's the biggest one. You know, that area, that recess is just not big enough to fit any type of capper that I have. And it's also not, you kind of have to aim the cap in that little trough, like I was saying before, and then it'll go in there. And then I'm turning the cylinder because the actual recoil shield pushes, because the nipples are so close, the recoil shield actually pushes the caps on. So here are the last few shots, and there's a cap jam. But it's shot fairly well. It shot fairly well. Now I tried to match up the target hits with my shots, and I have to do a better job of doing that. It takes a little bit of work to match up both cameras because I can't turn off one camera, turn off the other camera, and then turn them on and then turn them on. So I usually let the target camera run and then try to match them up. But so those are the shots. Those are the shots. And it was a fairly successful range day. Like I said, the Hawes performed. I would prefer to use the Hawes, to be honest. With all its problems, it's a fairly good shooter. So that is it right there. So here's the final tally. On the right is Mr. Keats Pieta, and I didn't really get as many shots off as I wanted to. The first few shots ended up being in off the paper, but on the left is the Hawes, and you can judge for yourself. Getting a little bit better on the shots, but I appreciate you watching, and I will see you next time.